Hi, I'm going to readjust it. Yes. Hi.
Hi. Oh my God.
How are you?
Great. Hi, Leah.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. So happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Guys who are watching, Leah and I actually met on a trip with a bunch of chefs. I guess it was like a year and a half ago. We went to Israel with all of these amazing people, so many incredible chefs, and we really, really, really bonded. We hung out together the entire time. We had so much fun, and we talked a lot about your travels in Southeast Asia, in Thailand. I feel like you guys were you guys about to go on a trip right then when we left there? I feel like you were about to go.
Probably. I feel like before we were always getting ready to go on a trip because we went at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, depending on if we had any events over there or if I was just visiting family. But yeah, Ben and I, my husband, who you met on the trip in Israel, we usually go at least once a year for an R&D trip to Southeast Asia.
So, as I was saying before, and I apologize because I promise my technical skills will get better at this. I was supposed to figure out a way to pin in the comments, but I didn't. And so it's not pinned there what's going on. But what's going on right now is I'm here with Chef Leah Cohen. She has just come out with this book, which of course is going to be backwards. It's called Lemongrass and Lime. And Leah has a really interesting background, and I thought I know it takes a few minutes to do the dish we're going to do, but we can talk a little bit before we start. Leah is an American woman who is half Filipina, half Jewish, and you grew up going to the Philippines all the time, right? So
yeah, I've been going since I was 4, usually once a year to visit family.
And so she grew up going to the Philippines all the time, but actually you ended up studying and cooking in sort of fine dining Italian cuisine in the beginning of your career, right?
Yeah, I mean, people, I want to say back then, not that I'm so old, but I'm aging myself right now, but when I first started in, the culinary world, people weren't, you wouldn't see Filipino restaurants or, there were some Thai restaurants, but it was, the mom and pop place. It wasn't it was like your corner, takeout kind of place. And, I would say probably 10 years ago, people started going back to their roots and realized they didn't have to go in the path of Italian, French, American, and they could really explore, their heritage and all these very interesting cuisines that weren't as mainstream, And so, I started Italian food. I worked in Sicily, and I thought I was going to be an Italian chef.
Yeah, you worked at 11 Madison too, and then you were on Top Chef. And I read the intro in your book. And actually, just to sidetrack, we did our externships at the same restaurant.
Yeah,
I did my extern at Park Avenue Cafe, which is where Leah also did hers. I'm sure I did mine way before her because she thinks she's old, but I'm really old. Anyway, you guys, I am here with Chef Leah Cohen, and we're talking about her new book. I'm still waiting for Tina to tell me how to tag that. I promise next time I will, but it's a delicious book, and it's filled with recipes from your travels, recipes from your childhood, things, that you learned from your family in the Philippines, but also a cross-section of recipes that you learned from chefs that you worked with in other areas of Southeast Asia, like Thailand and Vietnam. And we have chosen a recipe. Please no political remarks. I don't know what that means. Were we talking about politics? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
So I actually chose a recipe out of this book that is not from the Philippines, and it's not Italian either. It's a Vietnamese pancake, and you have a story about the chef that you learned this recipe from in the intro of the book, which I think is really important for acknowledging the people that teach you the things that you learn. We all absorb information from people and learn from people and get recipes from people. So I love that in all of the head notes, like all of the details that you give in your book about where and what you learned and your travels, and made me so jealous. But you know, I don't want you to, I was gonna say like, what's your favorite? But I feel like there's probably not a favorite, but out of this book, what do you find that you go to again and again? Like, you don't use these recipes, but do you think that there's something in here that is your favorite?
I mean, you know, it's so hard. Well, I do love this dish. It's actually on our menu at Bnh Xo for brunch. Not that it's necessarily a brunch item. It can be eaten any time of the day.
Yeah.
But it's hard. You know, people are like, oh, what's your, you know, what is your specialty? What is your favorite thing to cook? And it's such a, as a chef, I think it's such a hard question. I mean, I'm sure you get this all the time. And you're like, I can't narrow it down because, you know, it depends on the day. It depends on the mood that I'm in.
Yeah.
But this is definitely one of my favorite recipes. And last night I actually did a Instagram or a cooking demo with Jackie, who was also on our trip, and we made chicken adobo, and that is also one of my favorite dishes just because it reminds me of growing up. It was like the first Filipino dish that my mom taught me how to make, and it's so easy. It's like a one-pot dish, and it's just like a braised chicken, so it's just really warm and comforting on a day like today, which is kind of gloomy outside. That's, you know, a great dish to make. Yeah. But I don't know, really, it's hard to pinpoint which one's my favorite.
Somebody just told me how to do it. Hold the comment then. Hold 1 second. I'm so embarrassed, but I'm going to do these more. So, you know, it's funny because I thought, well, you know, should I do something from your Filipino background, you know, here instead of doing this? But I have to admit that Vietnamese pancake is one of my my absolute favorites, and it says pin. Hold the comment, then pin. I can't. Never mind. I have to stop trying to get it. I'm wasting time. Anyway, what I was going to say is I thought, you know, maybe I should do something from your childhood or from your upbringing, but I really appreciated the amount of research that went into these recipes and the amount of different chefs that you worked with. And Vietnamese pancake, Banh Xeo, that's how you say it, right?
Bonsail, yeah.
Is one of my favorites. So I thought maybe we would cook it together.
Yes.
I am going to have to relocate my camera, and I'm moving it over here. But if Leah wants to start, it's actually a really, I've been making this a lot lately, which I know.
Yeah, I saw on your Instagram that you've been making it. So I was like, all right, we should do my version of it.
Exactly. I know.
Yeah.
That was your suggestion, was that you do that. And I'm really happy that you did, because it's one of my favorites, and I invited my brother to come sit outside and eat
nice.
when I'm done. So let's start.
Okay, cool. So I would say, just for anyone who is interested in learning Southeast Asian cooking, my cookbook might seem intimidating at first, only because there's a lot of ingredients that go into the dishes. But I would say that it's not complicated. It's just sourcing a lot of different ingredients. So for the Banh Xeo, it looks like there's a lot of ingredients, but everything you can pretty much get at a grocery store. You don't have to go to a specialty Asian store. And then really it's all about the batter, getting it nice and crispy. And so we can go through the ingredients for the batter. And we also made the pickled daikon and carrots in advance. Just because you want to pickle them at least 30 minutes or overnight is preferred. You know, so in this bowl over here, I have some rice flour, and this recipe or this batter can actually be completely gluten-free if you sub out the beer for sparkling water. But I eat gluten, so that's totally fine. So I have some salt and some turmeric powder that I'm adding to the rice flour. And the turmeric doesn't really give it much of a flavor, but it gives it a really nice yellow color, which is very traditional in a Banh Xeo. And so I'm just whisking all of the dry ingredients together. And then for the wet ingredients, we have some water. And you can mix them all in advance, or you can just add them as we go. Some beer, and then coconut milk. And I use full fat coconut milk, and it just adds a little bit of richness to the batter. And I think and a little sweetness as well. And then you just whisk it all together. And you can make this in advance. I would say you can make it up to a day in advance. You really don't want to go longer than that, because the beer is there to, you know, it has the carbonation. And so you really don't want it to get like super flat. So maybe, you know, the most I would say is an hour, is a day. And so then that's the batter. It's very simple.
I made one too.
And then I'm just going to pour it into a measuring cup with like a spout, just so it's easier to pour into the saute pan when we're making it. And so I have a nonstick saute pan. I think that's really important. There's actually traditionally a Bonsail pan. Oh. And I do not have one of those. I actually didn't even know about it until I saw a cooking show on Netflix, and the chef had like a traditional pan, and I was like, oh wow, I should get me one of those the next time I'm in Vietnam, which is hopefully soon. Hopefully we can travel soon. So I'm just gonna heat up the oil, and I'm using canola oil. You can use any neutral flavored oil that you prefer. But my go-to is canola oil.
I'm turning my camera around because I'm also cooking this.
Okay, cool.
Along.
So we have some shrimp that has been peeled, deveined, and shelled. No tail, like the little tail part has been taken off as well. And I like to just make sure that they're super dry, because, you know, when you put it in the oil, it's going to splatter everywhere. So just as a precaution, make sure that the shrimp are nice and dry. And then once it gets like basically smoking hot, we're going to add the shrimp and then all the other ingredients. And it goes pretty fast initially. And then Sarah, I don't know if you have a lid for your pan.
A lid.
Okay, cool. Great. So once we add the batter and the shrimp, we're going to cover it, and that steam is going to help cook the shrimp. So we're just getting that nice and hot, and I'm just waiting for that. And so we're also going to add to the batter some bean sprouts and some sliced scallions. And then the rest of the ingredients we add at the end when we assemble. So we have the pickled daikon and carrots. We have whatever herbs you want to use. Today I have Thai basil and cilantro in house, but I would say you could add mint. You can add your favorite herbs, whatever you choose. And then we have lettuce on the side that is meant to be eaten with the Banh Xeo, and then some nakcham. So I think my pan is hot enough. I'm going to add the shrimp, and you want to put all the shrimp on one side of the pan, because we're going to fold this over.
So how many shrimp is it per, like 2?
It's like, well, it depends how big your shrimp are. Mine are pretty big, so I could fit 3 in the pan. Okay. And then I just poured the batter right on top. And we're keeping this on pretty high heat. So you have the shrimp on one side of the pan, and then you have on the other side of the pan, you're going to add your scallions. And then I'm going to put the bean sprouts on top of the shrimp. And so this rest.
Bean sprouts.
That's okay. It's okay.
I can't find any.
I'm going to put the lid on it now.
Thanksgiving.
I mean, so the bean sprouts just add. They don't really add that much texture because we are cooking them, so they're going to steam. But it's traditional. And you have bacon, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't have bacon today, so I'm going pork-free.
Right?
Yeah, that goes in the end. So basically, once this is done cooking, we're going to take the lid off, and we want the bottom to be really, really nice and crispy. I love a crispy Bonsail. I think that's really important. And you want to make sure when you're pouring the batter that you're not pouring so much batter, because you don't want it super thick. So I use probably about 1/3 of the batter that I made. So this should make about 3. It also depends on the size of your saute pan as well. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit just because it's steaming pretty hot. And I saw that, is this recipe similar to the recipes that you've been making? Because I saw that you've been making a version of this on Instagram.
So the version, I mean, I can show you. I'm not going to show you the book. We're talking about your book. But the book that I use is this Australian chef. And the book is called The Street Food of Vietnam. She's a Vietnamese Australian chef.
I think I have that book.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
All of her recipes yield like a ton, which is kind of funny. Your recipes are much more scaled to human size. Her recipes, her Banh Xeo recipe makes like 2 quarts or something, which is great because I actually make it a couple days in a row. But she doesn't have beer in hers. Yeah. And she calls to let her sit for like 3 hours before, or a little longer, to rest it. But other than that, it's quite similar.
Yeah, I would say that the beer is not super traditional. I tested this recipe a bunch before putting it on my menu at the restaurant, and then it was so good I really didn't have to do any adjustments except scaling it down for the cookbook. And so I just noticed that I really like the texture that the beer gives and a little bit of flavor. But like I said, I don't think that is actually really super traditional.
And like you said, you use the bacon here, but her recipe uses pieces of like a pork shoulder or something that get cooked and sliced, and those go in at this shrimp stage.
Exactly.
And the shrimp are actually pre-cooked and added later, but other than that, you know, it's a pretty similar situation.
I would say one of the great things about making Banh Xeo is you can literally fill it with any of your favorite ingredients. So if you don't eat shrimp, or if you don't eat pork, you can literally swap it out for anything that you want. And I add bacon to this recipe because we serve this dish at brunch. And so everyone loves bacon for brunch. And it's in the brunch chapter of the cookbook. So that's why I add the bacon. And I think it adds another layer of texture because you're using crispy bacon bits. So
I'm trying to tell everybody what we're doing because my technical skills kept me from having it pinned. I'm with Chef Leah Cohen. We're talking about her new cookbook, Lemongrass and Lime. I'm Sarah Carey, the editorial food director. I know some of you may expect to see Martha when you come here, but I work on the recipes for the magazine, and Leah's a good friend of mine who wrote this book. It's her first cookbook. And we're making a recipe, Banh Xeo, from the book, which is a Vietnamese rice flour pancake, savory pancake that gets served filled with all kinds of delicious stuff. So if you don't have this book yet, you can go out and get it, and you can get this recipe. I guarantee it's going to become a favorite of yours.
So I don't know how yours is looking, but my shrimp are fully cooked, and the bottom is nice and crispy. So I'm going to take it out just with a fish spatula, and I just lay it out on paper towels just to drain off whatever excess oil there is. And then it's time to fill the Banh Xeo with the remaining ingredients. So we have some pickled carrot and daikon. And as I mentioned, I made these probably like an hour ago. And you can make a big batch of these. And the recipe for the pickled daikon and carrots are in the cookbook as well. And you can make a big batch, and then you can store it in your fridge for, you know, a long time.
I put pickled daikon and carrots on everything that I have. Because also her nakcham makes, this is my pickled daikon and carrots, but that's how much it makes. And the nakcham also makes that much, which it was this full. I mean, there was an entire quart container that I'm just finishing up. I refresh it with fresh chilies all the time. But
nice. I like your style.
Well, I don't know how much I told you, but I'm a huge fan of anything spicy or anything pickled. So I put both of those things on there all the time.
Nice. So I put it I put the pickled daikon and herbs just on one side. So we're really leaving this other side like open to just fold over. And I actually use the paper towel to kind of help lift it up and fold it.
Okay.
And then I just transfer it over to the plate. So it's like a half circle, semicircle. And then we serve it with the nakcham dipping sauce on the side, and then some red leaf lettuce, or you could do bib lettuce, butterhead, whatever lettuce you prefer. And so the idea is you're supposed to cut it up and put the pieces in the lettuce cups and then dunk it into the nakcham.
Right. And, so the nakcham, can you tell people what the nakcham is if they don't? I don't know if we talked about that.
Sure. So nakcham is, and I'm sure I'm not saying it 100% with the proper pronunciation because my Vietnamese is not very good. But so it is a dipping sauce that is commonly found served with pretty much everything in Vietnam. So you can pour it over your noodles, your rice noodle bowls. You can serve it on the side with your Bonsail, with spring rolls. It's really a delicious condiment to have. And you can, as you said, you can just refresh it and make a big batch and refresh it with the chilies. And it has fish sauce, lime juice, vinegar, sugar, water, garlic, and chilies. And so you just whisk it together. It's very simple, and it is, I mean, it's delicious, and I love just having it pre-made in a container in the refrigerator.
I burned mine a little bit because I was trying to also talk, which maybe I shouldn't have been doing, but it came out pretty well. And as you guys can see, we literally did that live in front of you. We made this amazing dish. It's so delicious. And I think that, you know, the other recipes, where did I put my book? Here it is. So many delicious recipes. Like you get, you know, you have all kinds of, there's like braises, you get recipes in here for red curry paste and green curry paste and yellow curry paste. So you can make your own delicious curry pastes to make seafood stews and massaman curry and all kinds of stuff. I mean, my mouth was watering so much when I was looking through this.
There's like over 125 or 30 recipes in the book. There's a lot. It took 3 years to make.
That's what I was going to say. I remember when we were traveling together, which was over a year and a half ago, you were talking about the book and, you know, just like what kind of recipes you were going to put in it and thinking about it so much, just like all that goes into making a book. It's really a lot. I mean, and I don't think people necessarily understand what a long process it is. Our social media friend is asking, what are your favorite recipes from the book? We did talk about this a little bit, but do you have a few more that you might want to share with people?
Sure. So obviously Banh Xeo is up there. And then kaya toast is one of my favorites. And it's, I don't know, I would say it's like intermediate level of difficulty. And I love lumpia, which is a Filipino spring roll. And that's very easy. It's a good intro to kind of to some of the recipes in the cookbook and some of the flavors of Southeast Asia. And I would say an advanced recipe is khao soi, which is a curry noodle dish from Chiang Mai in Thailand. And that's on the menu at my restaurant. It was actually the first menu item that I knew that when I ate it for the first time in Thailand, I was like, okay, I got to put this on my menu. And so it's been on the menu ever since. It will never come off the menu. And it is, I actually made it with Amanda 2 weeks ago.
Oh, Amanda.
And
Amanda.
I know.
Our friend Amanda Freitag was also on this trip.
We made so many good friends. Like, I mean, well, you were friends with Amanda prior to this, but there were so many good people on the trip, and I made such great friendships that, I mean, it was a great.
Well, when you spend 10 days on a bus with people, you really tend to quickly bond. Well, I'm really excited to eat this and to share this. Is there was something I wanted to ask you, but I can't remember now. How many times, I know that you probably, made these recipes based on recipes in your restaurant, but like how many times do you think that you had to test each one of these things before you felt like it was ready to go in the book? And secondary question, did you have somebody cross-testing them for you, or did you just work them so much that you knew that they would be perfect?
So I would say all of the recipes are basically either recipes that I use at Pig and Cow at my restaurant, or they were specials, or I use them in my at my other restaurant, Piggyback. So they all come from they were all tested before I put them in the cookbook. But one of the difficult things when you make a cookbook is, at the restaurants, I make huge portions.
Right.
And we also use grams. We weigh everything out instead of doing like tablespoons or cups or whatever. So it is, the tricky part comes down to scaling it down and then converting it. And so I tried to do as best as I could. And then my co-author, Stephanie Banh, who has co-authored all of Bobby Flay's cookbooks, had a ton of experience really doing recipe testing for cookbooks and, knowing how to write it in a way that at-home cooks could understand, because I've never, professionally written a recipe.
Yeah, it's a job. I know. I do that. People are asking well, first of all, I wanted to mention your restaurants. Pig and Cow is on the Lower East Side on Clinton Street, Clinton Street, in New York City, and Piggyback New York is on 30th Street.
Yeah.
So if you're in New York City, are you open right now? What's going on in terms of service at those places?
So Pig and Cow is open. We have we're only doing outdoor dining, and we have a takeout window. And so the menu is a little scaled down, just because, you just can't, you gotta kind of just make it as streamlined as possible because we have less staff. So the menu is a little bit smaller, but I am slowly adding more things back onto the menu as we get busier. And we're on all the delivery platforms, Grubhub, Seamless, Caviar, all of that stuff. And then we have an outdoor dining section where it's basically first come, first serve. We're not taking reservations because it's not that big. And we don't have any servers. So you literally go up to the window, you put your order in, and then, and then you get your food. And if you want to take it to go, cool. If you want to sit down and eat, we have tables available as well. Just trying to do as minimal contact as possible. And for Piggyback, unfortunately, still closed. We're trying to figure out how to reopen, when to reopen, if it makes sense to wait till indoor dining becomes 50% capacity. If it ever gets to 50% capacity, just because of the location. Lower East Side is like kind of poppin'. It's, it's very neighborhoody. But Piggyback is office buildings, and it was very much driven by happy hour, lunch, concerts at MSG, sporting events at MSG, and so those things aren't really happening right now. So we're just trying to figure out the best route to reopening that location, unfortunately, because we actually only opened like 2 months before the whole pandemic hit.
Yeah, I know.
And
I remember.
it was bananas. Like, it was so busy for the first 2 months, like I couldn't even breathe. And then it just came to a halt, which is really super unfortunate. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I need to tell you that, but I think about you guys all the time in terms of like where it's going, but we can only hope for the best. And at least you have this book to be thinking about right now. One more question from someone on here, and then I guess we have to go. But they asked, what was the most used ingredient? And I'm going to take a guess. Fish sauce. Is it fish sauce?
I would say either fish sauce or lime juice.
Lime.
I use lime juice in basically everything because I really think Hence the name. Yeah, exactly. But I just feel like it adds a really nice brightness to whatever dish you're cooking. And you're not adding a big amount to make it taste like super acidic. You're literally just adding a minuscule amount to like make it pop and make it just taste like more fresh. And you probably wouldn't even know that there was lime in there, but there's something that makes it taste extra special and more delicious than if you didn't add the lime juice.
Well, I mean, this type of food is all about balancing flavors, right? Salty, sweet, hot, spicy. And sometimes it's more of just the blend of those things than any one thing popping out, right? It's probably most of the time that's the case. So
yeah,
I'm really excited to have this book, and I'm really happy that you came. I wish we could spend 3 hours talking about it, but maybe someday in person. I am Sarah Carey, the food director at Martha Stewart. This is Leah Cohen, the author of Lemongrass and Lime. And thank you all for coming and enjoying this little afternoon together. And I hope to see you all soon. And thank you so much, Leah, for coming and doing this with us.
Thank you, Sarah.
I can't wait to make all the rest of these pancakes. I was going to invite my brother to come and eat them outside, but I might just eat them all myself.
Thank you, Sarah. It was so much fun. Bye.
Bye.